So, it's great to see all the active supporters for the software-defined vehicle today in the room, but I can tell you that there's also support on the senior executive level. So there's a very nice video by the CTO Automotive at Conti on LinkedIn. If you would need some endorsement to convince your management to get involved, look for this one. And I had the pleasure to be in Ludwigsburg over the last 2 days, right? And software-defined vehicle was a hot topic. I'm not sure if they will make that presentation recordings available to everyone, but the next two I will show, the third one I will just mention. Look at it, right? That was the last slide of Christoph Hartung, president of ITES. And he said, join the Eclipse Software-Defined Vehicle Working Group in Ludwigsburg on stage. That was a nice promotion for us. And I think the event itself, especially that presentation, was nice. There was a lot of discussion about open source, software-defined vehicle. That was really nice. We had a similar one from Christoph Horn from Accenture, standing on stage and say, collaborate and contribute. And all they say, code first, contribute. Oh, that was really nice to see all here, the Eclipse Foundation, software-defined vehicle, the current membership here. That was really nice. And there was also Dirk Walliser from ZF mentioning, but I was too slow to take the picture for the presentation, so I don't have it here. So it turns out, but interesting, so I was involved in a couple of discussions afterwards, and I'm not sure how many people are not aware of this, but I was asked, so what kind of company is Eclipse, and how do you earn your money? And I said, oh, maybe I just want to clarify a little bit. So the Eclipse Foundation is an EU-based non-profit organization, right? We have a membership-driven business model, which is not business because we're non-profit, and we are governed by EU law, which is quite important. And also, who is finally behind the Eclipse Foundation? So we are governed by our members. We have strategic members who nominate a representative to the Eclipse Foundation board, and we have elected representatives for other membership classes. As you can see, we have a quite nice mixture between regions, between industries, between research, between small and big companies. And one of the reasons why we moved to Europe is that we have a strong strategic partnership in Europe. So whenever someone is asking you the same question, we are not a company, we are a company, but we are a non-profit organization, and we don't earn money with selling any kind of software-defined vehicle working group software artifacts, right? So that was something which a couple of senior managers did not understand with open source. But going to the topic, that slide was already shown by Gunther today earlier. The differences between projects and working groups, and what working groups are. Vendor neutral governance, that's more theoretically, but ecosystem development marketing, that's what we are doing today, right? Sitting together, inform the community about what the working group is doing. So that would be a very good example for what the working group is doing. Collaborative management, that's what we need to start now. So we have seen all the 7 projects today. That's the starting point, not the end point. But as I said initially, it's not enough that we have the 7 projects. The community, when I say we, I mean you, by the way. You have to find a way to collaborate, put things together, doing something meaningful from an end customer perspective, from an adopters and users perspective. Just the 7 projects doesn't help anyone, right? So we need to find a way to combine this into something meaningful. And there, I like the idea of Eclipse Leda, which is, you had the notion of distributions, which we also discussed internally in the working group. So I think that may be the right approach to think about what software-defined vehicle working group will finally deliver. That means distribution of project artifacts which are related to the software-defined vehicle working group. Specification development, that's the 30 minutes I would spare, because I could talk 30 minutes about this one. And branding and compatibility, right? Maybe this Eclipse Chariot approved doc mode, doc function, that sticker, that's what we talk about branding and other stuff. Relationship between project and working groups. There's no notion of working groups' ownership of projects. A working group doesn't own a project. For sure, they should work together, but there's no formalities in the governance structure of the Eclipse Foundation which would give the working group power over projects. Working group express non-exclusive interest into projects. That's what the steering committee did this Monday for the 7 projects which has been presented today. And the union of the committers from a working group project comprise the working group committers. So there's still a relation, but it's more an informal relation. So, I think 2 questions I would like to answer in the next 5 minutes. What happens next to the project we see today? And what in for the people who would like to contribute to this project and would like to engage in that project. First, what will happen to the project? So all the projects we saw today are currently in the proposal phase. The pre-proposal was before 7th of June, where we set the deadline. Now all of these projects are in the proposal phase. I think with the exception of one summer, all already have passed the community review. So next we will schedule the creation review, then we'll have the incubation phase, 3 to 6 months, and then they will be in the mature scale. What does it mean? The proposal phase, so we have created tracking issues, start community review. So we internally did already the trademark review for the different project names. We, by the way, already changed one project name because the initial chosen project name was not possible, so that was a change. That was what our trademark team is doing. We did the license check, so it's a license which the project would like to use, something which works out of the box with Eclipse Foundation. The PMC approval and the capture resource requirements, so what kind of GitLab, GitHub stuff you would need. Then we would start the creation review. Then you can start to do the provisioning into the repositories, and then we are up and running. Next steps, we already heard today a couple of times, initial contribution. Each initial contribution or each big contribution will be checked by our IP team to make sure that the licenses in the different artifacts you are using are compatible with each other, that you don't come up with an Apache v2 license but use GPL code inside. That's something which usually doesn't fit. So our IP team will do that review, and as soon as the IP team approved or has no issues, any open issues, the source code will be moved into repositories, GitHub, GitLab at the Eclipse Foundation. You can set up the build and processes, and then you're up and running, right? And people can use your source code. You can develop based on the GitHub repositories. So that would what happen next. Resource, we saw that slides already. So this will happen with all the projects, right? We have a couple of projects, Velocitas, which are already in a very mature stage, 90% source code contributed. Summer, it may take a little bit longer, that's open source code, but that's fine. We don't set deadlines, we don't have expectations. It has to happen within 2 weeks or something like this. But it would be great, since we plan, and Ansgar will tell a little bit of the planned next steps in our annual schedule. The sooner the better, because we would like to have that hackathon, hands-on training. So, and we can only do, or the community can only do hands-on training if software is available. How to engage? We also saw that slide. I would have a slightly different angle than Gunther. Transparency, openness, vendor neutrality. Vendor neutrality I will explain a little bit more later. Openness, everyone can contribute. So if you have started a project at the Eclipse Foundation, there's no means for refusing anyone to at least make a pull request. If then you accept the pull request, that's something different, but at least we are open, we don't exclude, we don't pick winners, we don't exclude any parties. And transparency, it's most of the decisions which are being made at the Eclipse Foundation, which are related to project working groups, are communicated transparently via mailing lists or others. We will later on see the committer election. Committer elections will happen in the open. So each vote result will be documented in the open on a mailing list. Who's who? That's maybe the most interesting part. We have seen that 7 projects, and the 7 projects have an initial list of committers. And the initial list of committers are defined by the project starters. And that's not mandatory that the committers comes from the companies active in the working group, but that's usually the case. Because in this setup, the working group was founded to do this kind of work, right? And there's also no need that the contributors come from it, but that's also usually the way. They should just signal that projects and working groups are usually closer related than the governance structures would define it. Committers are the group of people, persons who have the real power over the project. They can influence the project, they have direct access to the source code, while contributors can make pull requests but don't have direct access to the source code. A pull request by a contributor needs to be accepted by committer. How to become a committer? As I said, the initial group of committers are nominated by the project starter. How a contributor can become a committer is we have what we call meritocracy by contribution. Committer status is not automatic, so it's not enough that you come from a certain company, that you may sponsor something with a huge amount of money, That's not enough to become a committer. You need to establish a pattern of contributions, frequency and quality, and then you, if you do this over a certain period of time, one of the existing committers will nominate you to be elected, and then the committer election happens. And before that, as a contributor, you should define trust and talk to the different committers. We make sure that there's a neutral way of looking on that election, and we operate transparently. So the election itself, so all the other committers are asked, are you fine with that proposal to nominate or to elect a contributor to a committer? And the voting results will be shown public. So there is no hidden voting or something like this. It's public voting, so everyone can see who votes +1 or -1 for a certain proposal. Having that said, first of all, thank you. The idea here is you can contribute, open, transparent. Nobody will refuse you to try to support. If you are new to a project, you need to start as a contributor. By frequent and high quality contributions, you can make yourself seen in the project, and then if you build up the relation to the committers, you may find a committer who will propose you to be elected as a committer, and then the group of committers will do the election. This way, we believe we can build the most active communities, because the people most active in a project will become committers and will have the biggest influence on the project. So, starting the project, adding source code, that's for the existing organizations. Contributing to projects, becoming committers, that's for organizations which would like to get engaged with the projects.